Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Those present tonight, braving the cold, and those of you watching from home, welcome to the 2015 annual meeting for the Grosse Township Board of Trustees and the meeting of the electors. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:18 in the evening, March 23rd. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, once again, thank you for coming tonight. We have most of the board present. Mr. Treasurer Van Oss is excused, but we do have a quorum for business. So let's begin with, we have a couple of actions. First of all, a little background on what is the annual meeting. When township ordinances were passed in the state, most of them are still holdovers from those passed, I think it was 1847. This is how business was done in the townships. The electors met at least once a year and decided what they were going to do with their townships. Much of those authorities have been worked to them or been passed on to your board of trustees, but we still just kind of honor that tradition and get together. So this is your chance to see us, and that's a chance to thank you. With that, we have a couple of motions that we need to carry out tonight, and the first one, so that we can continue to do business, is action item number 1. And I will move that the Grosse Township Board of Trustees adopts Robert's Rules of Order for, actually worded, policies and procedures. Adopt Robert's Rules of Order as the official bylaws of parliamentary procedure under which all township board, all commissions and committees will operate in order to govern all questions of procedure not otherwise provided by township rules or state law, and further to adopt Robert's Rules of Order newly revised in brief as the authorized secondary concise guide to parliamentary meeting rules. Support. Okay, moved by the supervisor and seconded by trustee Posiask. Again, the operative term is here, Robert's Rules of Order, or RONR, Rules of Order newly revised, as we refer to it when we have to open it. The way we conduct business, it's standardized among the township and the township functionaries, except for when we've either adopted a procedure or state law mandates we do something else, which covers an awful lot. But with that, any discussion among the board on the Rules of Order? All right, with none offered, those in favor of approving Robert's Rules of Order 10th edition as the official bylaws of parliamentary procedures, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? That will be the way we do business. Thank you. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the minutes of the March 24th, 2014 annual meeting as presented.
Support.
Okay, moved by Clerk Rankin, seconded by Trustee Budney. Any discussion, questions among the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving the March 24th, 2014 annual meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. Those will be adopted. Thank you. Let's see, with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Township Manager. We'll do enough. Again, this is a chance for you to meet the people that are helping us all run the township. So, Mr. Ram.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to take this moment to introduce the community, the township employees, and I'd like to add the consultants that are present here this evening. And I'm trying to decide who I'm going to forget this year. It was pointed out to me every year I forget someone. So we'll start with myself, Dale Ream, Township Manager. On the left is Annette Wordsmith, which is the Township's Deputy Treasurer. Sharon Gray, the Township Deputy Clerk. And as I go, this would be counterclockwise from my left, our consultants. In the far corner, Russ Whitman and Sohail Sabak from CE Rains Company, our township engineers, and Mike Georges and Tom Montleone from Yo & Yo, our financial consultants and auditors. And I didn't miss the middle. Okay. In the back on my right is Joe Keefe from United Water, which does our wastewater treatment plant operations. And we have Commerce Park Airfield Manager Mike Duker, Police Chief Joe Porcerelli, our DPS Director, Lorinda Beneteau, Fire Chief Duncan Murdoch, Recreation Director, Brandy Boyd, and our Township Attorney, Thomas Sorty. And in the control room is our Communications Director, Ted Fournier. And on the right, you know what, I wanted that to be the one I forgot. Our Finance Director, Ian Darsnick. So thank you for allowing me that brief moment just to point everyone out. Everyone is very, very accessible. So if any of the public or community has questions, come on in, look us up on the website, send us emails. We'll be glad to help you out however we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ream. At this time, this is our opportunity to recognize and thank the people who, the commissions, committee members, the people who really do the heavy lifting here, kind of make the town run. So I'll begin with Trustee Posiask, and introduce yourself, your commissions, and the members you want to recognize. Please.
Thank you, sir. Members of the Bike Path, Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, BPAC, include Jane Fiegel, Aaron Himmelspec, Alan Veliket, Rob Pollock, and myself. We have got a pretty ambitious group there that they've done a lot of things in the last year. Finished up their bike path on Horseville. Took a good hard look and made some repairs to the bridges that are connected and associated with those paths. Helped install a fountain at the south end of the path on Grow Road, which was donated generously by the Island Roadrunners, and the Bike Path Committee put together a brick selling campaign to raise the additional $4,000 to get that fountain installed. And I think most importantly, we attained a second bronze level award from the Promoting Active Community System because of the work of the bike path in promoting Grosse Ile. I don't see anyone from the group here tonight, so thank you guys for all your hard work. Greenways Open Space. Greenways Open Space is represented amply here by Mr. Bike Path. Mr. Greenways Open Space, Cliff St. Pierre. It also includes Art Kester, Pat Nelson, Roberta Ubarni, Dale Filarski, and myself. They are continuing to be the stewards of the island's open spaces and trails. Their flagship seriously has to be the Sanctuary Trail, the Wildlife Sanctuary Trail. It's getting some nice recognition in the last year because of the schools using it as an educational experience and due to its marked trees and tranquil setting. Their public event called Dump the Junk is something that's happening twice a year, and it's going to happen again on May 2nd and 3rd this year. Very successful, and it keeps things off of the greenways and open spaces. So thank you, Cliff, and your committee for what you do.
Thank you, Mr. Posias. Let's move to Trustee Tom Alvesto.
Thank you, Brian. I'm going to start off first with the Fire Commission. As we all know, that Chief Murdoch is our fire chief. I can't say enough about him. Fire Marshal will be Russ Beaudry, another fine example of dedicated people who have dedicated their literally 24/7 of their week to this township to make sure that we're all safe. The chairperson for the Fire Commission is Stuart Keeler, who's here this evening. Then there's Jerry Bringard, Kurt Korneffel, Gordon Miles, of course Chief Murdoch, and myself. This group, I've learned a lot in the 2 years that I've been working with them. They've had patience with me. I thank them for that, Chief. But every question I've had, they've answered it. Any concern I've had, they've answered it. And I just can't say enough about our volunteer fire department's passion for their job. They're there when we need them most, and that's always an emergency. So thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure working with you. Second, I want to talk about the Recreation Department. Brandy Boyd is our rec manager. I can't say enough today of what a valuable asset Brandy has become and will continue to grow for our recreation department. You can't pick out any one function of recreation. I mean, everything, you got golf, you got the marina, you got the pool, we have a skating rink now, you've got volleyball, you've got basketball, it goes on and on. Plus the Centennial Farm and all the programs that take place there. Randy is relatively new. She's just jumped right in with both feet. She's got her hands around it, and Brandy, thank you. Our chairperson is Wally Ketcher, and then there's Mike Swales. I'm not going to try to tell you exactly which area they liaison up to, but you got Wally Ketcher as chair, Mike Swales, Greg Maryland, Bill Moreau, John Conroy, Leah Schelke, Ann Hayner-Megan, Ethel Yaps, and Helena Woodward-Ryan. And Brandy, can you help me? The young lady who is now our liaison between the school. Miss Snyder.
Is it Nicole?
She has been attending our meetings, and I think she's going to be an asset between the rec department and the school system. She's a real pleasure to have on board with us. Again, I can't say enough about the rec department, all the functions, all the features, all the programs that they provide this township. Too many to name, and I just look forward to the next 2 years serving with them. And Brandy, thanks again.
All right, thank you, Mr. Malvesto. We'll move to Trustee Budney. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I actually have 3 commissions now that I'm liaison for. 2 of them deal with appeals for various things, and one is the one that isn't about that is the Public Service Commission, which takes care of your roads, water, and sewer, and wastewater treatment plant. A very unexciting but very important commission. Has the largest budget of any of the commissions, and I think we have a really good group. They work really, really hard as a group. A lot of times you'll find, a few people on the commission working on something, and maybe the other guys not so much. Well, this whole group works hard and puts the time in outside of our meetings to view things and try and make sure we get things right for the people of Groseal. On that commission, we have William Kostick, who's the chairperson. We're very lucky to have him. He's very knowledgeable in the area and really is dedicated to this island. Also, Jim Nelson, Ron Wilder, Les Schmidtke, Phil Kennedy, John Riley, myself as liaison, and Lorinda Beneteau, the DPS interim director. We do the everyday things. We keep your water running, we keep the sewers flowing, and we try and do something with the roads. Coming up in 2015, that'll be our main concern, putting together a long-term, large project to do something with our roads. As you all know, as you've been reading, more and more communities are having to do things themselves because the county and the state don't have the money or aren't giving the money down to the local community. We're faced with that, and we can either argue about whose job it is, or else we can just do something about it. And we're putting together a long-term project, which we will be rolling out to the public to see what they think of it to fix miles and miles of our roads. I'm also liaison for the Zoning Board of Appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals, when you're going to build something or do something with your property and it's out of sync with our zoning ordinances, you can appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we'll decide whether to give an exception to you or to hold fast to the ordinance. Again, a very good group of people. I like to think we've been doing such a good job that we probably met only 4 or 5 times last year instead of 12. So people are pretty much staying within the ordinances. We're very lucky and very aptly led by our chairman, Mr. James Bittinger. We also have Gary Bailey, Jacqueline Snow Davies, Robert Pierce, John Carnago, Charles Voino is our alternate. Steve Lemoyne is our new representative from the Planning Commission that sits on our board, and again, myself. And finally, we have a brand new commission that was just put together, the Municipal Ordinance Violation Bureau. Earlier this year, we decided to stop talking about ordinance enforcement and do something about it, and somehow I got involved in it. But as part of that, we have the Municipal Ordinance Violation Bureau, which will hear appeals. If we issue a ticket, it will hear the appeal, not of the violation, but of the dollar amount or the length of time to correct the violation. Our chairperson is Mr. Peter Klunder. Martha Herringshaw, is one of our alternates. James Nelson is on it, and Susan Sasek is also an alternate. We haven't had any cases yet, but we look forward to having some hearings in the future. Our ordinance enforcement has actually, our pilot program has gone very well. We've closed over 250 cases already. We have only one case that is heading to court at this time. So it's been a pretty good success. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bundy. Move on to Trustee Lauren Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I am a liaison to 2 commissions, the first being the Communications Commission, and I would like to thank the Communications Commission members for voluntarily serving their time and efforts with the Township website and making it much more visually appealing. At the time, the commission consisted of Chairwoman Kathy Walker, Secretary Udo O'Connor, who's in the audience here, Richard Nielsen, and Jerry Page. I'd also like to thank the department head, Ted Fournier, for his dedication and time that he has put into putting the website together in conjunction with Kathy Walker. I know that there was a lot of time and effort put into that, so for that I do appreciate that. I know, Ted, despite a lot of obstacles and challenges, he's always put the time and effort into everything he does, including maintaining a well-rounded, balanced budget, so that's good. The other commission that I'm a liaison to is the Festival Commission. I'd like to thank each and every one of those members. Unfortunately, none of them are here tonight. But the 2014 Island Fest, if anybody had attended that's in this room, can probably attest that this is the best one yet. As far as in terms of attendance, profitability, the increase in volunteers, and the overall positive changes that took place. It truly did take a team effort from that group, and it's not easy to pull off such a large event, and you look at how much actually goes into it, and we do it all with $7,000 and sponsorship dollars, and it takes a lot to get all those other funds in there to pull it off. The passionate, hardworking, selfless group really amazed me. The chairman is Chad Novak, Secretary Nicole Finney, the Township's Finance Director Ann Darzniak, Bill Moreau, unfortunately I'm really going to miss him not being a part of that commission, Woody Clark, Dave Zula, Bridget Hurst, Julie Curtis served for a time, and then Wendy Kearney took over when Julie retired from our commission. Additionally, this group organized the Township Centennial Celebration last year, which took place on October 11th. The event was such a success that the Township Supervisor and Township Manager has asked the Festival Commission to continue this event. And going forward, it'll be called the Fall Festival. So look for more information about that in upcoming months. Overall, I just want to express my gratitude to all the different commission members and the volunteers, because I do know it does take time and a lot of energy to do what you guys do. So for that, I say thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Move on to Clerk Ranka and the clerk's report.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'd like to start out by a big hearty thank you to Sharon Gray, Deputy Clerk, Brian Friel, Election and Records Assistant, and Gail Hager, Part-Time Seasonal Clerk, as well as all of the election inspectors, who are really the boots on the ground and the people manning the polls. So without all of these people's dedication and professionalism, my job would be a lot more difficult, and our elections would run a lot less smooth than they do. So a big thank you to all those people. Some of the highlights from 2014 were accomplished a goal of training the Township Board, and approval of records retention policy for electronic mail, as well as a successful November election, despite late notice of some real estate issues with the VFW Hall, one of our main polling sites. Goals for 2015-16 are to further explore solutions to improve retaining and storing township records centrally here at Township Hall, to redistrict the voting precincts in order to better utilize our voting locations and manage election staff, while still providing convenient, comfortable, and efficient voting experience for all residents, and to train and prepare for two special elections, one in May and one in November, as well as a 2016 presidential primary and the federal and the local primary and general elections in August and November of 2016. In addition to the clerk's office, I had the pleasure of working our liaison with the Police Commission, who is chaired by Carl Bletcher. Members consist of Joe Dixon, Paul Anderson, Bob Zelasco, and Chief Porcerelli, as well as the Planning Commission, which is chaired by John Schweikert, co-chaired by Steve Lemoyne, members Jay Frucci, Mickey Bartlett, who served us for several years and did resign this year, Ann Jaworowski, who resigned this year as well, but who had served us for numerous years, Jim Davis, Brian Pollock. A couple highlights from the police department. Big thank you to Chief Porcerelli for his leadership of the department, his leadership staff, the animal control officer, Julie Cordes, the police reserves, who do a tremendous amount of work and don't necessarily get the thanks that they deserve, as well as our Explorer troop of basically high school people working with the reserves and the police department. Some of the highlights, there were 7,901 calls for service to the police department in 2014. Roughly 477 written reports, 116 accident reports, 1,186 verbal warnings for traffic offenses, 419 courtesy notices, and 76 Detective Bureau complaints to investigate. So a lot more activity than you might imagine here on Groseal, but these professional men and women of our police department handle it well and keep us one of the safest communities in Michigan, as is evidenced now by the FBI crime statistics 2 years in a row. Some more stats from the animal control officer: 775 calls for service in 2014. Some of the community policing programs, and the philosophy of the police department is community policing. The bicycle rodeo, the DARE program, the New World Computer Data Update, Operation Chill, bicycle safety, reading awareness, Safety Town, the School Resource Officer Program, and Stranger Danger Fingerprint Program. In addition to that, we have excellent grant writers on the department, primarily Detective Ken Pellin. Grants received this year were for a Bulletproof Vest Partnership Grant, Operation Stone Garden Homegrown Security Grant, Party Patrol Grant, Safe Communities Grant, and the Seneca Tobacco Complaint Grant. In closing, from the police department, members of the Groseal Police Department would like to thank our residents for their support. Working together, we can continue to keep Groseal one of the safest communities in Michigan and provide a quality environment for all residents. From the Planning Commission, it was a relatively quiet year for the Planning Commission. We had one sketch plan review, one site plan review, and we continue to modify ordinances on an ongoing basis to make sure that the residents of Groseal are served properly with the correct zoning. And that's it for my report.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Move on now with Treasurer Van Oss doing other things this evening. We're going to have his report presented by his Deputy Clerk, Ms. Annette Wordsmith. So, Annette, cover for Ted.
Yes, I don't have a lot. long report for him. He is out of town till next week, like you stated, and he just wanted to express his appreciation for his commissions and for his staff and support staff. And if you needed any more information, it'll be in the annual report documentation. So, but he wanted to express his thanks, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay, I'm going to take this opportunity, I'm going to ask the rest of the board members. Ted works on, or serves on the Commerce Park Commission, and that's also dovetails with the Brownfield Commission. So let's see, that commission is chaired by Ron Moran, also joined with John Rafel, Chris Mans, Walter Stoll, Jeff Fulbaum, and of course our manager Mike Duker. So, and they serve concurrently on the Brownfield Commission. So to all those, gosh, we're having some potential great success with the Commerce Park, and it's just real exciting time. Did I miss anything that Ted would have covered? Guess we'll
No, I think you got it.
close that one up then. Okay, with that, I'll turn it to the Township Manager's report. Mr. William.
Thank you again, Mr. Supervisor. When I write my annual reports, I always try to hit the bullet points and do the highlights of the things that we've accomplished. But I always kind of look at what is the big picture of the past year. And I think over the past several years, we've, in a sense, as an organization, been holding tight with our decreased revenues that have somewhat stabilized, and we have been holding our operations together, providing the services that the community has expected of us, but doing just that, in a sense, holding it together. And because of all the hard work of the boards, the commissions, and all the employees, we've been able to keep our head above water, if you will. We've seen our revenue stabilize, and our projections are on the uprise. So now where are we? Well, I would say that we're to the point where we need to start planning proactively for our capital projects. Every one of you had talked about things that you've been working on within your commissions, and some of those are big ticket items on the capital front. All the roads, for instance, utilities, things of that nature. So I really want to stress the importance as an organization. We need to look ahead proactively, because if we are constantly holding things together with duct tape, the repair and replacement later on costs more. So I think you'll see when we talk about the budget during the next meeting, some of those things are the things that we are trying to address. The DPS, for instance, have a fantastic capital improvement program, and accomplished quite a bit of that this past year. So those are the types of things that we need to start looking forward to. And of course, the economy and property values have steadied and now seem to be increasing a bit. That's, I guess you could say, the economy is a fickle friend. So, but just as an example, the Commerce Park Airfield Commission, they've begun doing renovations to the east side of this hangar, on Hangar 1. Roof repairs, window repairs, internal work, and they actually have secured a tenant for that facility and hope to be in within the next couple months. It was mentioned earlier, we completed the update of the Township website. We had an employee who had resigned and moved away, Carrie Lockwood, sadly, but on the glad side, we hired and we found a fantastic employee at Andrea Marshall as the treasurer's cashier. And let's see, it was also mentioned the electronic records retention policy. And actually, currently, even though it's not in this year's report, we're working on our electronic backup systems as a replication system. So we have an extra layer that we're heading toward right now, just through our normal maintenance of our computer operations. We did accept the retirement of Mr. Rooney after 27 years, and as Trustee Malvesto had mentioned, we were fortunate enough to hire Brady Boyd as the new Recreation Director, and is working on capital improvement plans and taking the trust that the community gave us over the past year by approving recreation millage and putting together a workable plan with the commission to move forward in those directions. We were named the safest community in the state by the FBI for the community with 10,000 to 25,000 residents. And the township engineers completed an infiltration study. It was part of the sanitary sewer system project required by the state of Michigan about removing additional infiltration. And we came up with a solution, and it was such a fantastic solution. We presented it to the state, and it's been over a year since they responded because our proposal was so fantastic, they don't know how to respond. And that's exactly the situation. And I say that tongue-in-cheek, but it is true. We creatively proposed a solution to help remove some rainwater from our system in a different way to treat it. And it is testament to our commissions, to this board, the employees, and the consultants we work with, that we look outside the box and try to come up with things that make sense. And who knows when we're going to hear back from them. At Recreation, we purchased the Universal Access Easy Dock Pier through a block grant, and we're working on getting quotes to put that in this spring, early summer. And on the communications side, they completed 3 phases of the upgrade to this boardroom, and that was the computer switcher, the cable cast system, and the cameras. And phase 4, the sound and presentation system, we should have to you next month. The DPS Commission put together a road repair program that we presented to Wayne County, and actually received their approval to chip seal roads, some of the asphalt roads. It's something that I guess used to be done in Wayne County 20 plus years ago. It's very common in the rural areas, and expect that to start this spring, hopefully in the next month and a half or so, depending on the weather. But the DPS Commission also began developing a long-term road maintenance program that they presented to Wayne County. And now it's a funding issue. We're working with Wayne County and how they can list us within their priority list. As was stated by Trustee Budney, we completed the valuation of the township ordinances and the enforcement program, and began proactively enforcing these ordinances for the compliance related to the storage of trailers and vehicles. And very successful. The ordinance officer, on an average, responded to 46 complaints, and in the past it's been near 60, but the last portion of the year was dedicated strictly to that 250 some closed cases, which would obviously skew that number. So it was just an example of how those things compared by spending all those extra efforts in that different area. And it was handled in such a manner that I received relatively few complaints. And I just want to compliment the staff and Mr. Gray for handling things in that way. The township facilitated a special assessment district to help residents of Oak River Drive to allow them to repave their streets at their cost. In this case, it was a private street, and that is also a possibility on public streets. We can do and facilitate a special assessment. The BPAC worked on bike pack repairs, especially the bridges, and completed the horse mill From a safety standpoint, we filed legal action requiring the demolition of a dangerous building, which is an example of you ultimately get to a point where you're working with a situation where you unfortunately have to take the next legal step. But as you know, we like to be able to try to address something internally and administratively before we do so. And those are the abandoned buildings just here next to the township down the street on Railroad. The capital maintenance project at the wastewater treatment plant that were mentioned, they repaired the elevator, the lighting system, added a natural gas generator, and some of the internal influent pumps. Again, an example of being proactive, addressing those things. We issued 14 permits under the drainage grant program, and I was surprised the number was that high. We had a lot the first several years, and it kind of slowed up. And you'll see money in this year's proposed budget to continue that program, because I thought to myself, I think our numbers are falling. There might be less than 4 or 5. So maybe it's time to end that project, but
Heavy rain.
But it is a wonderful program. We're dealing with specific targeted areas and neighborhoods, and at a small scale globally helping that region. Purchased the outdoor hockey dashboard system for the Water's Edge all-season recreation pad, which we still have to fundraise. Myself and the volunteers know we owe the township, and we already have fundraisers in the plans, in the makings. And Fireside purchased the fire engine, water rescue trailer, aluminum boat, and battery-powered Jaws of Life. What always strikes me, and all of you have heard this from me before, what is our purpose, what is our mission, what is our goal? But you can see that all these items I mentioned really stress that as a governmental organization, and that purpose is service to the community. So we don't forget that. And so with that, Mr. Supervisor, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rim. The good part of being supervisor is also the worst part, is that anything that isn't assigned to everyone else falls under my responsibility. And the good part is, having had my finger on the pulse of what's been going on for the last several years, gosh, I just love being a part of this township. All the other committee members and volunteers, I'll try to recognize everyone else who's made a difference. And I'll start with one of the organizations that they do allow me to serve on, that'd be the Downtown Development Authority, trying to keep Macomb Street a vibrant, happening place. And that's chaired by Ron Moran again, and also serving our Gloria Trudell, Peter Stachel, Susie Harrison, Eric Anderson, and Sarah Dilsilzian just added. She representing Slats, who Enterprises owns a lot of the properties on Macomb Street. And regrettably, Jay Frucci, who had been a member, has decided his days are just too full, so he will be relegating his volunteer efforts strictly to the Planning Commission. He will be leaving the DDA. We do have openings, so we'll be looking for ideas to keep Macomb Street the happening place. Board review, it's a mandatory function because we assess properties. We also have to give members, community members, property owners the opportunity to appeal their property assessments. Mr. Nielsen, who had been serving for years, had asked to leave the commission for health reasons. And Richard, thank you so much for the many years you've served on this. He's been, we did carry this year with 2 members, Mr. Timothy Walker and Ms. Shelley Schmidtke, along with serving as secretary is Carol Knope, to handle the complaints at board review or the petitions at board review. Much fewer petitions this year. I think we've got the assessments pretty well in line, and we've also been recognized as as probably the best assessed municipality in the state of Michigan, and I'm real proud of their efforts. Let's see, Senior Alliance, Jack Frucci is our representative to the Senior Alliance. I represent the township, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. Mr. Posiask serves as an alternate. be at the General Assembly later this week, and it's a great organization trying to sort out those things that are important to this area of the state and see if we can get funding and ideas and plans to continue to make improvements here. Let's see, additionally, Downriver Community Conference and the Downriver Mutual Aid, I'm the representative to that. Ms. Smith serves as the alternate. Downriver Mutual Aid is a force multiplier for us. Our fire department, fire and rescue, contributes greatly, and our police department works with them. Again, all these communities are small pieces of this big pie, and we really have great capabilities because of the contributions of all the communities, and Grosse Ile is a great contributor to that, particularly our dive team, our dive capabilities, and our water rescue capabilities. Additionally, island beautification, it's a committee. They get very little funding from us, but hopefully I can get the members, they look at the entryway signs, how nice Four Corners looks with the with landscaping. So let's thank Art Kester as the chair, Pam Frucci, Linda Tilley, Irma Slimko, Jerry Page, Michelle Babcock, Julie Roscoe, Brian Medford, and Richard Eifert. Mike Perry is the Dangerous Buildings Officer, has been a great assistance in our progress on the Real Road apartments. And before I go into my annual report, let's thank the spouses and families of all the volunteers, because our volunteers take time that they would be spending with their families and friends to work with us. So for all those of you who either grudgingly or willingly are willing to let your husband or wife contribute to the township, again, thank you from all of us. With that, I'll step on to my my annual report, the state of the township. So I'll begin following my usual format. The Board of Trustees you elected in 2012, midway through our third year in office. We'll all learn much and continue to make measurable improvements in township efficiencies and governance. This annual report will serve to present the state of the township based on a combination of facts, observations, and educated opinions. My mission, in my 7th year as your supervisor, my mission continues to ensure that the Board of Trustees and the township staff preserve and improve Grosse Ile Township as one of our country's most desirable residential communities. While our population is stabilized, we still have much to do as long as there are empty homes, classrooms, and shops on our island. So with the support of your Board of Trustees, I will continue to seek and implement every means to develop and market those assets that distinguish Grosse Ile Township as a family's best destination to call home. As we are all stakeholders, I will constantly seek your inputs and advice on how to improve both government performance and our community's appeal. Looking back, Michigan's economic outlook has improved dramatically. Loss of residents and revenues that plagued our state and our township for almost a decade has reversed. Together, we have survived some tough times that necessarily resulted in reductions in personnel and non-essential services. I hope you can appreciate that we are operating this township with a minimum staff who somehow continue to provide those municipal services that residents of a major metropolitan area have come to expect. None of our current successes or future endeavors would be possible without their dedicated efforts. Supported by the successional staff, Grosse Ile Township's Board of Trustees is working hard to ensure our township remains the most desirable residential community in Michigan. Speaking of desirable, probably our most noteworthy achievement over the past year is our 2nd national recognition as the safest place to live in Michigan. Although a surprise to us residents, this title is wonderful news and certainly highlights the quality of living in Grosse Ile Township. This year was Value Penguin, a web-based insurance and financial advisory company, who made the assessment and published it nationwide. Again, they issued the award based solely on reported crime statistics. We know there are many more aspects to safety in our everyday lives. I think we can agree that rapid response in medical emergency, a rescue from the surrounding waters or ice, or just making our homes and businesses accessible during weather events are also safety concerns. Through the teamwork of the police reserves, fire and rescue, and public services, we enjoy an exceptionally safe community for children, seniors, everyone in between. Beyond being Michigan's safest place to live, we've increased our recreational opportunities as another of our quality of life goals. In 2014, our township's first recreation department director retired after decades of devoted service. We are exceptionally fortunate to find Miss Brandy Boyd to take the position, and her experience, enthusiasm, and fresh outlook will bring exciting new opportunities. Volunteer efforts coordinated by both township staff and nonprofit organizations continue to improve our secluded waterfront park on the Detroit River, Grosse Isles' only public beach. Also on the waterfront, Island volunteers developed a kayak launch in an underutilized area within our marina complex, and the response has been phenomenal. Our recreation department has found grant funding to dramatically improve this resource. Later this year, we should open a world-class riverfront launch site that will be universally accessible, a long-desired addition to our recreational offerings. Continuing on the subject of water access, the Detroit River International Wildlife Refuge, which surrounds the southern end of our island, promises to preserve the beauty and tranquility of our natural wetlands in perpetuity. We should all consider this refuge our asset, and working with the Fish and Wildlife Service, we will secure additional access so all can enjoy the wonders that the refuge has to offer, especially the bald eagles I see almost daily. Back ashore, we put finishing touches on bike path along Horse Mill and continue to explore opportunities to extend the system. We can all be proud that our bike paths are recognized nationwide for their scenic beauty, safety, and that visiting cyclists feel welcome here. In addition to our recreational offerings, we have additional community activities to enjoy. I'm pretty sure we'd all agree that Island Fest 2014 was the best ever, the product of the most energetic, dynamical festival commission in my memory. The commission also organized the Township Centennial Celebration last October, recognizing the 100th anniversary of Grosse Isles' separation from Mungwagon Township in 1914. Incidentally, our police department also turned 100 in 2014, and it's actually formed prior to Grosse Isles Incorporation. At the moment, last year, we survived one of the most brutal winters in Michigan's history, with temperature and snowfall records being set almost daily. Already this year, we were hit with near-record snowfall, and we're expecting more. These conditions are putting a tremendous strain on our limited resources, so please be patient. Your board has just finished our annual budgeting marathon, all of us working with the manager and finance director to develop a balanced, responsible budget. Although we're balanced, we're not through. We will continue to find efficiencies and best practices to better deliver the services you expect for your tax dollars. One of the efficiencies we've established, thanks to our Communication Commission, is our new website, developed to serve as your virtual town hall. Through the site, you can pay bills, study expenses, follow board meetings, almost anything you need to know about township government. Continuous improvement is the mandate. This website exists to serve you. Please let us know if there are any other features you would like to make your dealings with township government more productive. And last, I'm pleased to report that we are completing the restoration of the east side of Hangar 1, and our airport commerce mark manager is a business owner ready to move in. I'm very proud we made the effort to preserve the rest of our historic building, and we will be able to generate revenue from it, revenues that will enable us to make improvements to the park and attract even more economic activity. So looking forward, a continuing and justifiable concern of Grosse Isles residents and visitors is the condition of our roads. Some background, our network of roads, many of which began as wagon trails in the 18th century, do not easily comply with Wayne County standards for construction and maintenance, including snow removal. Therefore, we receive little funding for such expenses. We did receive some good news from the county. This year, Grosse Isles stands to receive $500,000 for the repair of residential roads within the township. Our DPS commission has already prepared a list of the most necessary repairs, so we will be able to begin without delay. As we're all aware, transportation funding throughout the state is in turmoil. We can only take a wait-and-see approach for the remainder of our beleaguered roadways. Another challenge and success will be the continued evaluation and enforcement of our property maintenance ordinances. We were challenged with the deteriorating appearance of some of our residential neighborhoods, a condition many of you brought to our attention. We could not let this continue, so we began by reminding all residents that a tidy community will attract other like-minded residents, preserving and improving the value of all of our homes and neighborhoods. I prefer to consider these good neighbor ordinances and will continue to educate the community from that perspective. The board has unanimously supported this effort, and most of you have demonstrated that you also agree. The success so far is that to date we have closed over 250 violations and have not had to collect a single dollar in fines. Now that we're all aware of our responsibilities and are seeing improvements, I invite your thoughts on any changes you might think are more appropriate for our community. We have additional concerns, the major issues being the uncertainty surrounding the Detroit Water and Sewage Department, which supplies our municipal water, the unknown impacts of national health care legislation, and the increased government mandates levied upon our wastewater treatment plant. There's much good news on the horizon. Our Recreation Department continues to seek and be awarded grants and other sources of funding to expand our capabilities, including improvements to our pool and services to our senior citizens. Another positive trend includes new businesses on Macomb Street and the new development throughout the island, bringing families to our community and new students to our outstanding schools. So personal safety, road repairs, access to the river, recreation opportunities, and a tidier community. I've only presented a few of the challenges and opportunities awaiting us in our township's second century. I'm proud to be part of a board of trustees and professional staff that's willing to work tirelessly to address and remediate, yes, fix our problem areas and explore new avenues that will make Rosehill Township an even more desirable place to live, work, and play. We should all be very optimistic about our future. So let me close by asking that we all commit to making this the community we want our friends to discover, the community we are proud to call home, and the community we want to leave for our children. Thank you again for your confidence, your support, and your participation. Best wishes. That concludes my report. And should conclude with opening to public comment. So public comment on the annual meeting. Mrs. O'Connor.
Good evening, everybody. Uta O'Connor, 8148 Ironman Boulevard. As you celebrate Grosseal's Commissioner volunteers tonight, those who Mr. Loftus pointed out do the heavy lifting in this community, I know after nearly 16 years of sitting where you're sitting, how important the role of these volunteers is, and that without these volunteers, all of those projects and programs and successes you are celebrating up there would not have been possible, and certainly not possible with what you rightly call a minimal staff. This is the smallest staff the township has had, and yet work continues to be done, and it's being done by the volunteers that support you in getting the information to make these decisions. A community, though, that doesn't value these volunteers, even when they challenge the status quo, perhaps especially when they challenge the status quo, or perhaps when they challenge a vendor to do a better job. That kind of a community may eventually find it difficult to enlist the kind of volunteers it wants to do all this heavy lifting. And as a board, you know, you were not really elected to get along with each other and to be friends and to have fun at these board meetings. You were elected to face some really tough decisions facing our community: litigation, road situation, budgets. I mean, you know how long the list is. And you are the ones we depend on to build consensus from a diverse variety of sources and information, build consensus to solve these problems for a community that represents diverse interests and diverse populations. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Connor. Other comments from the public present? Not offered. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the annual meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney, second by Clerk Franca. Those in favor of adjourning the annual meeting for 2015, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. We will stand adjourned at 8:12. And let's meet again at, let's make it 20 past. Is that enough time to make it 20 past to initiate the business meeting? Thank you, everyone. Don't go away. I think there's still some snacks downstairs. All right, we're back. And my mic is on. We're back. We're stepping to the regular business meeting, the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. Let's begin, once again, it's a new meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, once again, welcome those who took the time to come tonight, those of you watching at home. We are continuing, we just completed our annual meeting for 2015. We're beginning with a business meeting, calling the meeting to order at let's make it 8:26. We have a quorum for business. The Treasurer Van Oss is excused this evening. In his stead, Deputy Treasurer Annette Wordsmith is going to be fulfilling his functions, with the exception of voting. With that, at this time, I'll entertain any additions or deletions to the agenda. Yes.
Mr. Supervisor?
Mr. Buddy, go ahead. Yes.
I'd like to propose adding action item number 8, which is the list of holidays for the fiscal year for the township.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Trustee Smith to add the staff holidays for township for the fiscal year beginning April 1st. Discussion among the board. Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, none offered. That action item number 8 will be added. I would like to request deletion of action item number 7, the improvements to the audio capabilities in township, in the Solomon Boardroom of Township Hall.
Support.
Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney to delete action item number 7. Discussion. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, action item 7 will be deleted. And I have one more request. I'm begging the board's indulgence to add an attorney's report in the report section of this evening's meeting. Seconded by...
Second.
Okay, yeah, moved by supervisor, and fortunately Jim was, Trustee Budney is second, so we'll add an attorney's report. I'm going to make that, or I'm going to petition the board to make that a regular addition to our business meetings, to keep everyone advised on where we're going on the legal front. So anyway, those in favor of adding the attorney's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So that, none offered, that will be added in the report section. Any other additions, deletions to tonight's business meeting agenda? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? None offered, the meeting stands as amended. With this, we move to the public hearing of the 2015-16 budget. I'll turn the microphone over to our Finance Director, Mrs. Darzian.
Good evening. I'm here to present the 2015-2016 budget. I just want everyone to know that there was a lot of time spent on this by the Township Board as well as all the managers, and I want to thank them for all the time that we did put into this. Just as always, I have a slide presentation, and obviously the budget is made up of almost 140 pages, so obviously we can't go through that page by page, but they are available, and they will be available on the website. We also have hard copies for anyone who doesn't have access to a computer. We have hard copies available as well. So if you need those, just give us a call and we'll get them to you. So again, I'm going to start the presentation, and when we do our budget, basically it's derived from the taxable value times the millages. That's the majority of the budget is made of that way to make up the property taxes. The only other budget items that we have are based on charges for services. That would be for our DPW and for our municipal airport. Those are based on renters, and obviously from your water and sewer consumption. Those numbers are derived from that, and we have recreation usage charges. So other than that, the majority of budget is derived from, again, the taxable values versus the millages that were voted on by the people. If we look at state equalized value or taxable values, you can see from 2009 from 2015. So in 2009 to 2010 to 2011 to 2012, you could see that our taxable values were in a decline, and those were the bad times that the whole state of Michigan has went through. If you see the 654 from 2009 to 2010, it decreased by about 6.6%. Unfortunately, over those years, our taxable value was declining at a much higher rate than it is going up now. You can see that the economy has turned around, and our taxable values are going up slightly, but they only went up this year by like 1.8%. So they can't go up as quickly as they fell, which is why the situation of everyone is in, that our tax revenues declined at such a decelerating pace, and now we're trying to catch up. So that is kind of the history, and you can kind of see that we're kind of stabling out, as Dale had mentioned earlier.
Can I take 1 second? And I wanted to point out, look at the 2012 figure. That's $100 million revenue reduction this township endured, and we really didn't make any noticeable cuts to services or goods supplied. I just think that's a testament to the work of the township staff. That would be devastating in most places. So, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's important.
Yep. Oops, I'm sorry. And if we look at millages, pretty much over that same period of time, this is total township millages, you can see that, like I said, the taxable value had declined so much, we had to get in line. So recently that the voters had voted an additional 1 mil to serve the general fund, which with that kind of brought things back in perspective, because again, the budget is made up of taxable value times the millages. Well, the taxable value had fallen so much, your taxes that everyone was paying really didn't go up that much. We were just getting back in line to like the 2009 tax bill. But you can see in the last year, from 13 to 14, millage actually went down because we have paid off the public safety building debt. So that is no longer on the rolls, and now we own a building free and clear. This is just another graph of showing you the debt millage versus the operation millage. So operations has basically, stayed the same for all the millages since 2012, and the debt millage has raised because of the sewer separation, which is the big part of that, the judgment bond for the sewer separation, and you can see that those are the two debts remaining of the of our township. I'm going to skip over as I start to look at these slides. This is general fund, and I want to get back to this. I want to go to the overall budget first. So I'm going to move up a couple slides. I hope the board doesn't mind, and we'll go back to those. I want to do total budget. Let's go to the big picture and then narrow into the general fund. So I did go up a few slides. If you look at the total budget being presented of all funds, all enterprise funds, total budget of the entire township, you can see that it's a little over $24 million, of which about $9 million is property taxes, and then $6.7 million is for charges for services, which is 90% of that is the Department of Public Services. If you look at that, our total budget this year actually declined 1.19%. And then we look at uses, it's the same thing. So we're presenting a balanced budget. A lot of you can see general fund, all the different funds that take up. You can see debt service is about $4.4 million. Then the public works is $5.4 million. Those are your biggest funds. But in total, again, the whole budget actually went down 1.9%. I'm going to go back a couple slides now. Okay. Again, we want to look at long-term debt. This is a big big ticket item, obviously. You can see from the slide, the public safety building has been removed. The only bonds that are out there is the township hall itself for the government activities. We have some special assessment bonds, and we have some capital improvement bonds within the rec department. So as far as general government, those are the bonds that are outstanding. The next we're going to talk about business activities. If you look at the tax sewer system, that's on your tax bill. That's still at $20 million. The Trenton Utility Authority is in your DPS budget of almost $7.9 million. And then the judgment amount is at 5.7. And the building authority, the 230 is on the DPS building. And we have capital improvement bonds within the airport at 290. We did pay off the Brownfield Authority bonds, and the DDA bond for Macomb Street is at $175,000. So our total bonds outstanding are $36.7 million. So you can see in any given year, principal plus interest, it's about $4.5 million. So you can see that's a big ticket item of the $24 million. We look at staffing levels. We got to remember that within the township, as Mr. Loftus had talked about, and Mr. Rian, we are service. That's what we do. We provide service. Service is defined in the government as people. So we as people provide service. We don't make widgets. We don't, go out and sell anything. People make up about 75% of the total budget. If we look at our current staffing, we're at 46 full-time people and 25 active volunteer firefighters. At one time, we were up to 67 people. The number has gone down since like 2000, so it didn't happen overnight. Every year, we've had lowered staff levels. And we're also, under the current operations, we are funding 35 retirees for both health care and pension. If we look at it, just a history of wages, I just went back for the last 17 years, so the average wage increases for non-union was 2.23, union was 2.31, and POAM was 2.28. And the consumer price index over that same period was about 2.08. So what this shows in the big picture, since 2010, gross wages, you can see on the graph. So if you look at gross wages, it's pretty much stayed constant over the last 5 years. Healthcare has stayed pretty constant over the last 5 years with a slight decline due to some change in benefits. And the pension has went up slightly because we are aware that we're in an unfunded environment in the pension fund. So what they have done is shrink the immunization period so that we get the unfunded liability paid. So it's the expense is increasing, but it's a good thing because it's drawing down, just as in your house, if you shorten the years, you're going to pay more, but you'll get that paid off sooner. So that's what that's doing. So what this graph kind of shows you in total, employees and benefits have basically stayed the same for the last 5 years. And that is a result of decline in personnel as well as ways of looking at how to contain health care cost. Now we're going to go to, now that we looked at the overall picture, we're going to go back to the general fund. So we're going to concentrate on that. I'm sorry, I wanted to go to that graph. Wait till I get there. I know it's there somewhere.
This was much more exciting when we were actually working the budget with
Yes.
Mr. Buddy and the treasurer and myself and a few other experts. It was
Are you saying
much
that?
more exciting in that.
Are you saying I'm dry? All right. I heard him back there. All right, we're going to look at just general fund itself. So this year, we're presenting general fund with a $5.5 million uses. So the total budget for general fund this year went up 7.21%. What that, I'm sorry, you got to go back one more. Okay, to make sense of this. So anyway, at $5.5 million, again, it went up 7.21%. As Dale and Brian had mentioned, we've over the past few years, we've weathered the storm, and now what was presented in this budget, there's some capital improvements that we need to take care of that we've probably not neglected and haven't done in the last couple of years because the money wasn't there. If we looked at the total picture of general fund, basically our revenues and taxes have covered our operations. But if we want to do anything extra, like I said, with the capital improvement, we have to go into prior year resources. And this budget presents that. So we'll go into a detail. But so the difference between this year's and last year's, why it went up 7.21%, was because of this line item called prior year resources. So we did go into our fund balance in this budget, and that's 5.3%. So otherwise, we would have went just a little under 2%. Increased over last year. Again, if you look at the total picture, the total pie chart, or again, we're a balanced budget. The big areas are administration, which is the prior year resources, and we'll go over that. And police department takes up 59% of $3.2 million. So what I wanted to do is say with the general fund projected deficit, some things that are included in this budget, like I said, we've put to the back burner until we saw a change in the economy. So if you felt that this time would be the time to start catching up on those capital improvements that haven't been done. The first one was we added some part-time maintenance into this facility because this facility is 15 years old, so we felt it was necessary to do some painting, and if you look at the walls, there's some neglect, so we're going to get those cut up and preserve the building. It's capital improvement. If anyone drives the parking lot, we do need some repair to the parking lot, so we put $125,000 there. We're also getting cable audio. There's been some, complaints about the audio in here, so we're putting $20,000 toward that. And we're also transferring money for the restaurant to rec and the utilities for rec, and to give Brandy, the new director, ease up some of the money so that she can do some maintenance. There's a lot of maintenance that needs to be done in that facility. So our capital-related expenditures was 246 of the 275 deficit. If we look at over the history of budget versus actual for general fund, it runs pretty close. You can see that the budget is in the green and the actual is in the red. And overall, it's we run pretty close, between 2 and 5%. We're not one to change the budget every second. We use the budget as a tool, and we use history to reflect what's going to happen in the future. So some communities change the budget daily. They'll do budget amendments. I think we've been using it more as a tool, and at the end of the day, we can see how close we were, how far, but you can see that it runs pretty good. The only one in 2010 was the toll payment for the bridge, and that's why that threw it out of whack. But other than that, it runs pretty close. If we look at general fund history, since 2000. General fund has on an average increased 1.54%. So again, you can see that's about where we range is 1.5% over a 15-year period. So we pretty much keep things, I always tell the board, if it is what it is, and sometimes it really is. If we look at the general fund versus the police department, obviously the police department take up a lot of general fund. Since 2012 and 2013 is when that new millage came up, and we got an extra police millage, which would totally help to balance the police department because they were taking up 100% of our taxes, and now you can see that it relieves some of it, and they're taking up now 84%. Finally, I just kind of want to go through a general fund of where we were and where we are today. You can see that over the last couple of years, we were going into a deficit 247. We knew it couldn't continue because our fund balance would have been depleted very quickly, again, because we got that additional millage. You can see we're pretty much breaking even. In 2013, it was $93,000. In 2014, we made $26,000. This year that we're currently in, it's going to end in a couple days, expecting about $100,000. And at the end of the day, the budget being presented at a 275 prior resources, we're at 2.7 with fund balances, which is about a 50% fund balance, which is still financially very stable. And then this is just a graph showing the same thing in a different format. And that is it. Did I put everyone to sleep yet?
Again, it was much more exciting when we were arm wrestling to get this budget. This year, when I did my annual report, I expressed a balanced budget. It didn't exactly work out that way because in the closing hours, we looked at the status of the township, of our increasing revenues, and we looked at the things we knew we needed to fix that we put off for years because we didn't know subsequent years if the dollars would be available. We're confident now that the revenues will increase. It's time to stop the deterioration of some of these assets. I really didn't want a board 5-10 years from now look back and saying, why did those dummies fix this place then? It's costing us 3 times as much now. So we're going to make repairs to Township Hall. We're going to the parking lot. Those of you who are forced to drive through there through the winter, it needs to be rebuilt. So we're going to get that done, and we move the bond that we've saddled rec with back to general fund. It needs to be there. We don't need to saddle the rec department with that debt load. So we're confident that those funds will be available. We need to get these things done, and should we take a turn for the worse, we can arrest these expenses and level off. So this was the right time to do that. We have the money. It's money well spent now. I wish I could say we're increasing the cash balance, but we're not. But we're spending it wisely. So that's my comments. Any comments from the board on the budget presentation? Again, if you were there, you would have found this much more exciting.
Believe me, we were going at each other.
I'd just like to say overall, it's if you look at the graph here, I mean, if you were going to an interview, you'd show that graph where you're pretty much budgeting exactly what you're spending. I think it's very rare that you're going to find somebody in running any financial company that's able to project that closely to where we're at. So, I think that's a testament to you and driving the department, and just the fact that the fund balance is as good as it is, despite a couple rough years, is a testament to the staff that's been running the place for a long time, as well as the oversight of the board. So it's overall, I'm happy with that budget. Obviously, there's little tweaks here and there that we could always make, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it. And keeping in mind that all the big ticket items are still going to come back in front of the board for us to approve or not approve at that point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk. Mr. Buddy?
I'd just like to say, this is always a a tough area, the budget. And I would just caution residents out there as they look at the budget, don't look at just specific items. You have to look at this budget process as a whole. Nobody, I don't believe anybody was more vocal than myself as we went through this on various, on various items. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the overall budget, and things can always be better, but I think this is a pretty good budget.
Thank you, Mr. Buddy. Other comments from the board? All right, at this time, since it is a public hearing, I'll open it up to comments from the public. Any comments from the public on the budget that Mr. Dysek just presented? Is that a volunteer proposal there, Mr. Clark?
No, it's a question.
Well, one or the other. If you want to come to the mic, here's your opportunity.
On the budget, you left out the 2% that all the people are getting prior to this year on their retirement packages. It's 2% every year they get.
COLA on retirement. It was a
Right.
contractual obligation.
I understand that. but
Okay.
You got to put that out so that people understand that it's going to happen every year. So if you're out 40 years, you get 80% tax, a raise.
Well, it's a contractual requirement, and it's based on CPI,
Right.
I believe.
New hires, it's not effective on new hires anymore. That's
But
been.
that was
that's
the
been some-
I
contract.
understand
But
that, but I want the residents to understand that it's coming every year, the 2% on everybody that retires. Okay, thank you.
that is a true statement. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Other,
Mr. Supervisor, Ted Vados had given me something he wanted me to read into the minutes.
okay, we have a comment then from the treasurer. Mrs. Wordsmith?
Yes, Ted Vados had given me the signed statement saying that Ted Vados, treasurer of the Groseal Township, would support to approve the 2015-16 budget as presented at the March 9th study session, and would like his approval read into the minutes of the March 23rd meeting, and signed Ted Vados.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wordsmith. Again, the treasurer was part of the arm wrestling team that did produce this budget, and he's been doing this with me and of course with Mrs. Darsnick for many years. It's we just look forward to it every year. Other comments from the public on the budget presentation? All right, with none offered, we will conclude. Thank you, Mrs. Darsnick. We'll conclude the budget hearing, and we'll move to convene the regular board meeting. Okay, we'll adjourn it we'll make it at 8:55, the hearing concluded. At this time, we'll step to... Okay, those in favor of reconvening the business meeting? Wait a minute, motion? Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Clerk Ranka. Discussion among the board? Okay, we're done discussing that. Those in favor of reconvening the business meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, back to business. With that, who volunteered to do the consent agenda?
I do the
public comment
brief
first.
public comment is first.
Right, public comment on agenda items. All right, with none offered. Boy, I thought I had this down. Consent agenda, Mr. Buddy.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 14-137, which consists of the minutes of the March 9th, 2015 regular meeting, check register for March 20th, 2015, and approval to process and distribute payments through April 3rd, 2015.
Okay, moved by trustee Buddy, seconded by trustee Smith to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered, the consent agenda is approved. With that, we'll move on to action items, and this is going to sort of seem like the supervisor show. because normally these are introduced by the appropriate liaison if they come from a commissioner or a manager. But the rest of the stuff, I end up responsible for. So let's begin with the Township Board meeting schedule. As you know, it's the second and fourth Mondays of the month, with a few exceptions. So I recommend that the Grosse Township Board of Trustees adopt the following business meeting schedule for 2015, beginning with April 13th, April 27th, May 11th, June 8th and June 22nd, July 13th, August 10th, 24th, September 14th and 28th, October 12th and 26th, November 9th and December 14th, January 11th and 25th, February 8th and 22nd, March 14th, and March 28th. That's my motion.
Support.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Clerk Ranka. You'll notice there were a few absences there. May 25th was canceled due to the Memorial Day holiday. July 27th was canceled per my request. We normally had been canceling that second July meeting anyway. Usually there's not a lot of agenda items, and it's a time for us to take some vacation time. November 23rd would conflict with Thanksgiving week, and December 21st would conflict with Christmas holiday. Any other discussion? We can, of course, always reschedule a meeting or call a special meeting if business demands it, or we can cancel one of these meetings with a vote of the board. So any discussion among the board on the business meeting schedule? We'll now offer those in favor of approving the business meeting schedule for the Grosse Township Board of Trustees as presented. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That schedule will be adopted. Let's see, I think I volunteered for the second one also, since the budget is, my development of the budget is my responsibility. I move that the Grosse Township Board of Trustees adopt the budget for the fiscal year ending 2016, the combined township budget effective April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016.
Support.
Okay, moved by Supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. Those in favor of approving the budget as presented in the budget hearing, discussion among the board.
Just quick discussion. Obviously, I'd like to thank the staff for all their input into the budget, but also to Trustee Bundy, to Treasurer Van Oz, and to Supervisor Loftus for spending so much time going through the details over the past several weeks.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Other comments from the board? Question? Okay, try not to get ahead of myself again. With those in favor of approving the budget as presented for the following fiscal year beginning April 1st, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered, and we have the treasurer's comments. That budget will be adopted. Action item, agenda. Moving on to action item number 3, and this will be among the board. We generally allow the liaisons to request the reappointment of commission and committee members for the subsequent year. So we'll be moving among the board members. And with Treasurer Van Oss not here, and I have the agenda, I guess I will fill in his stead. So I move that the Township Board of Trustees appoint or reappoint the following commission committee members for the fiscal year 2015 through 16 as named below and confirmed by each committee, commission, township board liaison. And looking for a second.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Clerk Ranka. So we've done that formally, and now we'll introduce each commission committee member. My first one will be to reappoint the Airport Commerce Park Commission and the Brownfield Authority, Ron Moran as the member for the term April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2018. I'll introduce, and we'll vote these in a block. To reappoint Airport Advisory Committee Al Anderson, Dr. Mark Lovis, and Carl Rigg for the term April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2018. To reappoint Island Beautification Committee Michelle Babcock for the term April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018. Trustee Posey asked.
To reappoint to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, Al Veliket, Aaron Himmelspach, Jane Fiegel, and Brian Pollack for the term April 4th, 2015 to April 3rd, 2018.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Posias. Trustee Malvesto.
To reappoint to the Community Recreation Commission Ann Hayner Magrum and Leah Shelkey for the term April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malvesto. I request to confirm the supervisor's reappointment of Anthony Kraus and Al Anderson to the Construction Board of Appeals for the term April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2017. Mr. Posias.
To reappoint to the Greenways Open Space Committee Cliff St. Pierre for the term of April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018.
Thank you, Trustee Posias. I will request the board confirm the supervisor's reappointment of Mr. John Schweikert, Jim Davis, and Steve Lemoyne to the Planning Commission for the term April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2018. Mr. Budney.
To reappoint to the Public Service Commission, William Kostick, Leslie Schmidtke, Phil Kennedy, and John Riley for the term of April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Budney. I move to approve the supervisor's reappointment of Ms. Susie Harrison and Mr. Eric Anderson to the Downtown Development Authority for the term October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2018. Mr. Buddy.
To approve the reappointment of Steve Lemoyne to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the term of April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018.
Okay, that concludes the recommended appointments and reappointments. A little background from the Airport Advisory Committee. Ms. Pam Broomall is request to not be reappointed. Also, Ms. Michelle Bartlett, Mickey Bartlett, is requested to no longer serve on the Planning Commission, and as mentioned previously, Mr. Nielsen has opted to depart from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Board of Review. Okay, discussion among the board on these appointments and reappointments. Okay, with none offered, those in favor of appointing or reappointing the aforementioned Township Commission committee members for fiscal year 2015 through 16, as previously named and confirmed, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered? Again, to all the volunteers, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let me move on to action item number 4, appointment of commission committee chairs. By our Chapter 67, the various commissions and committees select their own chairs and pass that recommendation on to the board. So I move that the Goseal Township Board of Trustees appoint the following commission committee chairs for the fiscal year 2015 through 16. And I'll begin with requesting, I'm sorry, I need a second, don't I?
Second.
Okay, I'll give this second to Clerk Ranka. Thank you for keeping me on track. My first request is I recommend the board appoint Mr. John Schweikert to the Planning Commission as chair of the Planning Commission for the term April 1st, 2015. Actually, all the terms will be April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016. Let's see, I'll fill in for Treasurer Van Oss and request the appointment of Mr. Ron Moran to the Brownfield Authority as chair for that same term. Mr. Budney.
To appoint William Kostick as chair for the Public Service Commission.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Posias.
To appoint Cliff St. Pierre as chairperson of the Greenways Open Space Committee.
Okay, Mr. Malvesto.
To appoint Stuart Keeler as chairperson of the Fire Commission for the term as stated.
Okay, I'm going to request to appoint Mr. Anthony Kraus as chair of the Construction Board of Appeals for that term. Let's see, Mr. Ranka.
To appoint Carl Bletcher as chairperson of the Police Commission.
Mr. Malvesto.
To appoint Walter Ketcher as chairperson of the Community Recreation Commission.
Okay, I will request the board appoint, again, Mr. Ron Moran as chair of the Airport Commerce Park Commission for the reference term. Mrs. Smith.
To appoint Chad Novak as chairperson of the Festival Commission.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. I request to appoint Ron Moran as Chair of the Downtown Development Authority for the term April 1st, for the term in question. Island Beautification, a request to appoint Mr. Art Kester as Chair for the term. Island Beautification Committee. And Mr. Budney.
To appoint James Bittinger as chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Posiask.
One early. Airport Advisory.
Well, in that case, I'll request the board appoint, thank you, Wally. I folded the page improperly, to appoint Mr. Al Anderson as Chair of the Airport Advisory Committee. Now, Mr. Posiask, bail me out.
To appoint Brian Pollock as chairperson of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission.
Okay, and at this time, I will wait and let the Board of Review, we need to reappoint to the Board of Review, so we're short for a chair on that. We'll decline that until I get more people willing to serve. And Mr. Budney.
Yes, to appoint Peter Klunder as chairperson of the Municipal Ordinance Violation Bureau.
Oh, let's see. Questions, comments among the board? Once again, the chairs are the ones who keep the commissions and committees rolling. The commissions and committees keep the township moving. So those in favor of approving the appointments as chairs of the various commissions, committees, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Again, to those chairs, thanks for the heavy lifting. Well, let's see. We have I guess I'll pick this one up also. Request the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees approve the appointment of Mr. Angelo Pizzo to the Airport Advisory Committee for the term of April 1st, 2015 to March 31st, 2018, based on the recommendation of the Airport Advisory Committee.
Second.
Okay, moved by the supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. As mentioned previously, Ms. Broomall, a current member and actually a charter member of the committee, is asked to step aside. So I'm requesting the board approve Mr. Pizzo in her place. Questions, comments among the board? None offered. Those in favor of approving the appointment of Mr. Angelo Pizzo to the Airport Advisory Committee for the term mentioned, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Angie, thanks for stepping up and keeping the airport operating safely. Let's see. Contractual agreement. Okay, this is, again, falls under the supervisor. It's our assessor. And I'm requesting the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees approve the contractual agreement for township assessing services between the Township of Grosse Ile and Mr. Timothy O'Donnell as submitted for the length of April 1st, 2015 through March 31st, 2016.
Second.
Okay, moved by supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. Mr. O'Donnell's been the township assessor since 1982. He's considered a township consultant. This agreement will ensure that as a township consultant, Mr. O'Donnell is recognized as the township assessor, supervising and overseeing township assessing duties and services. As I mentioned earlier, we are among the best assessed, although not all of you agree with it, the best assessed communities in the state, recognized by the Michigan Tax Tribunal and essentially the state treasurer. So we're doing real well in that regard. I'm real happy with the services, and we're doing it very inexpensively. Comments among the board? Mr. Budney.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor. The document that was given to us in the packet, that is the contract?
I'm not going to consider a contract. It's an operating agreement.
All right, and that's one of the things that it just gives me some pause. We're voting on a contract, but we don't have the contract. Within that summation that we have, it says a salary, not a consulting fee, so I'm a little troubled as to whether he's a consultant or a employee. And then also that amount of money is not stated there, and again, if we're voting on this, I certainly wouldn't want to vote on something that I didn't know. So I would I guess what I would actually like to see is this put off until we can see those things and vote on it. I have no problem with, the consultant himself, or probably what we're going to do, but I don't know from looking at this what those things are. And I think I mean, what we're doing, everybody, I think, would probably be in favor of the contract, but we need to look at the contract before we vote on it.
With that, yeah, I'm too close to this because I know what the numbers are, and I will take responsibility for that not being available. It's in the $32,000 range, essentially a 2% increase from last year. The distinction between whether he's a consultant or employee, I do need to research. It's not going to change the way he does business, but how he accounts.
No, I'm just saying what we have before us, it tells us it's a salary. A salary isn't paid to a consultant, a fee is paid to a consultant. So it could mix some people up. I know what we're doing, but then when we don't even state what the dollar amount is, I mean, how can we vote on this when we don't have all the particulars of the contract? If we're voting on the contract, which is what the motion is, we should have the contract.
And again, I don't know why I don't have it in front of me. Again, I'm too close to this, so I will entertain Trustee Bundy's. I guess the motion would be to table.
Table until next meeting.
The easiest way is just to vote it down and then just bring it back.
Just bring it back. Yeah.
Okay. With that, other discussion among the board on this issue. All right. In that case, with that, those, I guess we have a motion and a second on the table. Those in favor of approving the contractual agreement with Tim O'Donnell as stated, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. And that will be pending further documentation and clarification. That'll be an agenda item on the next. Gosh, I hope he doesn't walk out on us. He may demand more. So there may be some peril to this, but that will be postponed until the next business meeting.
Thank you.
And we do need to clarify that. Okay, we've deleted 7, and we'll move on to action item number 8. Mr. Bundy.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the holiday schedule for the township for the fiscal year 2015-2016.
Support.
Okay, moved by Trustee Bundy, seconded by Trustee Posias.
Do you want me to read the?
Might as well get them into the record.
Okay. Consistent with Section 19.8 of the labor contract, the following holidays will be observed in fiscal year 2015-2016. Friday, April 3rd, which is Good Friday. Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day. Friday, July 3rd, Independence Day, since the 4th falls on Saturday. Monday, September 7th, Labor Day. Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day. Thursday, November 26th, Thanksgiving Day. Friday, November 27th, the day after Thanksgiving. Thursday, December 24th, Christmas Eve Day. Friday, December 25th, Christmas Day. Thursday, December 31st, New Year's Eve Day. Friday, January 1st, New Year's Day. Monday, January 18th, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Monday, February 15th, President's Day. And Friday, March 25th, Good Friday.
Again, some of these are, in fact, I think they're all contractually guaranteed, and with these published, it gives us the opportunity to plan around them when we know, when the township hall will be closed. Questions, comments among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the holiday schedule as presented by Trustee Bundy, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will conclude our action items. Gosh, that's how we're running the place for the next year. It seems so easy. We'll move to the clerk's report. Mr. Ranka.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll start with a update from the Planning Commission. So we did meet last Monday, and we made recommendations to modify 2 ordinances, one of them regarding waste receptacle or dumpster enclosures, and the other one regarding signage on Macomb Street. So we'll have that at this board meeting, the next board meeting, for the board to adopt the amendment, or the ordinance amendments. So be watching for that at the next board meeting. From the clerk's report, we do have an election coming up. So qualified voters may apply to receive absentee ballots for the May 5th election now through Saturday, May 2nd at 2 p.m. Applications for absentee ballots were mailed out last week to those residents on the permanent absentee voter list, and there was a glitch on basically a typo on some of those voter absentee ballot requests, which indicated that they are for the 11/4/2014 election, not for the May 5th election. However, there are that does not constitute a legal issue. The forms will still be valid. So if you're on the permanent absentee ballot list, fill out your form as normal, sign it and date it and return it, and that will still be valid for obtaining an absentee ballot. Ballots will be mailed to those voters who have returned their applications as soon as possible. And qualified voters may obtain an absentee ballot in person at the clerk's office until 4 p.m. on May 4th. However, the ballot, if you do collect it on May 4th, the ballot must be voted on premise and submitted before leaving Township Hall. In order to be registered to vote in the May 5th election, you must be a U.S. citizen turning 18 years old on or before May 5th. If you are a new U.S. citizen or a new resident to Groseal, you may register to vote in the May 5th election until April 6th. Applications for registered voters interested in working as election inspectors on Election Day are currently being accepted in the clerk's office through April 3rd, and the annual report and budget book will be linked to the Township website later on this week.
Thank you, Clerk Ranka. We move on to the Treasurer's report. Mrs. Wordsmith.
Yes, for the month of February, the investment report information was not yet available for the packet, but it is complete now and is available on the Treasurer's website as always. In the Treasurer's office, we have completed balancing the 2014 tax roll. Paid roll and other reports and documents have been submitted to Wayne County, and all is good there. As far as unpaid property taxes for 2014, real property taxes must be paid to Wayne County. Payment options are available online through Wayne County's website. You could make a trip downtown, pay them in person, or send them by mail. Personal property, delinquent personal property from local businesses that have not been paid can be paid at the Township Hall. At the beginning of April, I'll be sending out statements for those people or businesses that still owe property taxes. Other than that, that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Wordsmith. This time we'll move to the trustee reports, and Mr. Budney.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. No report.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Mr. Posias.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Brief report. BPAC meeting next week, Tuesday at 7:30. And Greenway's open space, I'm sorry?
What day, please?
21st. Greenway's open space, April 7th. These are April meetings, folks. End of my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Posias. Mrs. Smith.
No report for myself either.
Mr. Malvesto.
Short report. Fire Department had their Fire Commission meeting last week. As a matter of public safety, good news is we have more hours of daylight. Temperature's getting warmer. I think that's good news. But
for me.
for the runners, the walkers, and the cyclists, even though we have more hours of daylight than we did before, I'm asking you to do your best to have some sort of reflective clothing on, especially in the early morning hours and then into the evening hours. It just makes it, with the roads in the condition that they are, and people are more apt to walk more in the middle of the road as opposed to on the shoulder, I would just like to see you have some sort of reflective clothing so we can, as drivers, car drivers, we can pick you up, we can see you. Please keep that in mind. There was a rec commission meeting this Thursday, the 26th. I have not had a chance to talk to Brandy. I don't have any update on activities that are taking place, but we are having a meeting. Brandy, is there anything that comes to mind?
Easter egg hunts this weekend on Saturday, probably at 10 a.m.
All right, that I had in front of me.
Pre-registration.
Okay, Saturday, March 28th, time 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. is going to be the annual Easter egg event at Water's Edge. There's going to be age divisions, no baskets. The hunt begins promptly at 10 o'clock. Prizes, videos with the Easter Bunny, pony rides, moonwalk, balloon art. Tickets are $8 per child. Pre-registration is required. Thank you. Oh, I should.
But you get the pancake breakfast following, too.
Yeah,
This is good stuff.
Want me to throw that in?
Yeah, throw it in, Tom.
Also, Saturday, March 28th, there's going to be a pancake breakfast. Enjoy all-you-can-eat pancakes plus sausage, coffee, orange juice, milk from 10 a.m. to 12 noon inside of Sharky's. Breakfast ticket fee purchased at the door, $6 for adults, $4 for seniors. I think I qualify as a senior, don't I?
I'm good.
And children under 12 are $3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Malvesto. And that, all right, at this point, we don't have a township manager report. I'll do the wrap-up. I'm going to invite the township attorney to, what did I miss?
He does.
Oh,
I know, I did tell
you
you.
you changed your mind, all right? I'm going to invite the township manager.
I do have one item I want to brief the board on, and it was on the published agenda, and I know when we spoke earlier, I did tell you, no, I don't have a report. But I have, over the past several months, I've been approached by some property owners that have offered to donate their property to the township. And I wanted to let the board know I'm working with Mr. Sorty, and I'll be going over these items with Trustee Posiask and Chairman St. Pierre, the Open Space Greenway Committee. Donating property, free property to the township is not necessarily free. What people are telling us is they're interested in donating these properties in the case of the properties that I'm evaluating at this time. They are in an area where there are no roads, no sewers, no waters. They're asking that if we pay the fees, the taxes, the title work. So depending on the properties, depending on their values, depending on the locations, that number could be not much, or that number could be quite a bit. So we need to come up with some type of policy, because obviously people are making a donation that they probably have an intention, or we're going to get a tax deduction on this, and making a donation to the local government. Now, everyone's situation with their accounting and how they're going to claim that value, and whether they're going to have an appraisal, that's all independent, and that's all their issues, not ours. But obviously we need to take these things into consideration so we can clearly tell them we are valuing this at because of what our assessor says it's valued at, and the rest of the documentation could be up to them. That's just one example of those types of things that we need to address. So I wanted to let the board know that these are things that we've been approached upon, and the general question is, would we be interested in taking properties if people were to donate them to us? So that's the type of consensus I'm looking for, and obviously we would base that decision and those evaluations on a policy that we would develop, which I'm done some legwork on. So wanted the board to be aware of those things, and if you have any thoughts, please do share them.
Yeah, I'd like to see this be brought before us in a study session or something where we can hash it out, not as a action item, first blush. I'd rather see it at a study session.
Great.
And I would voice the same request as Trustee Bundy just made.
That's where I was going.
Question I have is, should open space be involved at the very least of that study session? And if not, should they evaluate the properties as potential donations to open space?
And that's a wonderful question. That's my assumption. If someone's donating property, do we necessarily, does it need to be, nor do we want it to be open space?
Yeah.
There's another question.
And that's the reason for the study.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that depends, right? If it's a vacant parcel next to some other open space, that probably makes sense. If it's a dilapidated building at some point, then maybe that's a different discussion.
But I'd still like to volunteer Trustee Posias to work with me on this.
Help me with my argument.
That silence
No
is...
problem, Bill. We'll be glad to do it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ream. All right. With that, I'm going to invite our township attorney who has an update on something that I think is important, and he does also.
As I indicated to the board at the last meeting, on March 12th, I had a meeting scheduled with the newly appointed receiver over the buyer's property, the Railroad Apartments. Mr. Gene Kohut, who is the court-appointed receiver, met. Trustee Budney joined us. The property owners were there, and the listing broker for the property was there. We had kind of an extensive review of the property so that the receiver could get better handle on what may be available to do with the property, and he's working in that regard. I know that he's going to work rather closely with the listing broker to get it kind of moved along. I think everyone's in agreement that at some point we pretty much all know what's going to happen with this property, which will result in what the township wants and those two buildings down. In the meantime, after the March 12th meeting, I had additional discussions with the receiver, and we're making current arrangements with Chief Murdoch to make sure that those buildings are in exactly the state and condition, other than being down, Chief, that he feels comfortable with the contractors that he's done, without incurring the additional costs of going downtown and me being in front of the judge to request that. So we're there. As always, anybody has any questions on those, please let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Assorti. It's a tedious process, but if we make a wrong move as a government entity, we could end up with a big bill. We're doing this right. Again, sorry it's taken so long. Try to keep those buildings safe until they meet their ultimate condition. All right, with that, I'll try to wrap things up with a few odds and ends. First, on behalf of the board, I'd like to extend to Art and Claire Kester our best wishes as Art continues to recover. We know Art's been a major contributor to the island, and hope to see them both soon. Art is recovering. Administrative staff, township offices will be closed down to the Good Friday holiday on Friday, April 3rd. They will reopen on Thursday. They will be open on Thursday the 2nd, and on Monday, April 6th, normal hours 8 to 5. Have a safe and happy Easter holiday. The 5th annual Rock Cystic Fibrosis Race will take place next Sunday, March 29th, beginning at 8 a.m., beginning and ending at the Grosse Ile Middle School. We'll have runners pretty much around the perimeter of the island. We've always welcomed these guests to our island and treated them well, but please watch out for them. We'll try to keep it safe. We just get great press from people who visit the island, both to run and to cycle, and we love having them here. Let's take care of them. The first household hazardous waste collection sponsored by the Wayne County Department of Public Service will be held Saturday, April 4th at Romulus Civic Center from 8 to 2. There are flyers for this in the back of the room. I think I've gotten it. Anyway, they're back there. If you have hazardous waste, it'll describe what they'll take and what they won't take. Let's see. As we've talked about previously, this is good stuff. The Grosse Ile Township will be participating in the Detroit Institute of Art's Inside Out program, where pieces of art will be presented in an outdoor display various places throughout the island. They want them in locations that are accessible for walkers. So we're waiting for the sites and the art pieces. Carol Canope and my assistant, and Donna Hinson from the Alliance for the Arts were down there, and real excited about the program. It's going to be neat. It's just something, it just adds. It's just great for the community. And Carol is working hard on the island-wide garage sale. There are already people, again, I'm not a garage sale guy, but the people who are into it, this is good news. They're already calling when we're going to hold the garage sale. It'll be August 21st and 22nd from 9 to 4. So keep that in mind. Flyers will be in the back of the room. We had, gosh, over 150 registered members and a lot of non-registered participants last year. Hopefully it'll be equally big this year. Kiwanis, the island cleanup, will be in April. I talked to Mr. Page about that earlier today and promptly forgot the exact dates, but I will make sure that gets out. But that's the Kiwanis cleanup begins at the Northridge Church on Meridian, and it's a great community effort. The place looks wonderful for a couple weeks after that. It just really annoys me to see the trash and litter, but we'll get most of it picked up. And lastly, Mr. Malvesto previously suggested we get Mr. Somerville, our state representative, here to discuss the May vote on Proposal 1 to raise the state sales tax for road fix money funding, and he has agreed. We're working on a date, but when I have that date fixed with Mr. Somerville, I'd like to do it as an open house where we can invite the whole community, not part of a business meeting because his time would be limited. So I'd like to do it as an open house and invite other neighboring communities that are within his district to explain his position on it and the in-depth view of what Proposal 1 offers to the state and, the good, the bad, the ugly of the whole thing. So stay tuned for that. And that completes my supervisor's report.
Mr. Supervisor.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yes.
The dates on the DIA, the art.
We are scheduled for the second half of the summer, so they won't be in July. They'll start positioning the artwork throughout the island. I don't remember how many pieces we have, 7 or 10 or something will be, again, it's 12. Is it 12?
12 pieces.
Wow, okay, so we're looking for places. There'll be several on Macomb Street, along the bike paths. Again, we're pardon? Water's Edge. None of these are finalized, but these are the ones we'll recommend. It's their decision. We're making recommendations to them. If you can think of a place you'd like to have a piece of art proudly displayed, let Carol know, and we'll compile those and negotiate with the folks from the DIA. And it's just another reason to get people to come to Grow Seal and look what we have to offer. With that, thank you for bringing that up. It's a work in progress, but I think it's going to be a great add to the island. And I'm going to throw in attorney's fees on the check register to O'Reilly Ranceria for $3,408.50. That concludes my report. Now we're open to public comment. 3 minutes, you know the rules. Mr. Clark, don't let me down, Woody.
Okay. Proposal 1 will raise taxes $2 billion every year forevermore. Increase sales tax 16% from 6 to 7. Increase gasoline taxes $450 million. Initially 41 cents per gallon per federal tax. Increase annual Michigan drivers' registrations fees by $95 million. Result in Michigan residents paying an extra $100 million a year in federal taxes. Average family will pay between $680 and $800 per year in taxes. Proposal 1 sends 40%, that's 40% of the $2 billion to Lansing special interests, not roads. So some of this stuff is not going to the roads, it's going to somebody's pocket. The first year, over 75% does not go to road repair. Increases mass transit spending every year by over $100 million. Expands the current EITC welfare program by over $250 million annually. Increase legislature discretionary spending over $150 million. Total state spending has grown faster than inflation of 5, 10, 20 years. Send Lansing an interest message. Fix roads without paying ransom to Lansing special interests. Make funding road repair a priority within the current $53 billion budget. More effectively efficient spending current $3.7 billion Michigan transportation budget. Look at the Michigan House passed from December spending, but $1 billion plus toward the road repair without raising taxes. Now that died in the House. The Senate didn't pick it up. The Senate and the governor didn't pick it up, so it just died there. Several elected officials are discussing reducing da-da-da-da-da-da. Some of the ads were paid by your tax dollars if you live in Michigan Township. Michigan Township Association, which is financed entirely by members of the township government, in turn, paid by the resident tax dollars, donated $100,000 for the Vote Yes or Else campaign last month. Legislature is provided alternatives that won't raise taxes, destroying the entire argument of Vote Yes or Else campaign. Attorney Bill Zudy announced he opposes the proposal, saying the proposal is full of potholes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Those opinions are Mr. Clark's and not necessarily those of the Goseal Township Board of Trustees. And we'll get counting on Mr. Somerville to give us a broader picture on this. Other comments from the public present? Going twice. Okay, with none offered, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by trustee Budley, seconded by trustee Posiask. Those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none offered. We'll call the business meeting adjourned at 9:38. Sounds good.